And we're live. How you doing, Jeff?
It's Friday. Can't complain.
It's Friday. Yes, it is. Yes,
Been waiting all week for it.
Right? Me too. It's been a big week, man. I swore yesterday was Friday already. So
it's been a busy week. Had lots of calls this week. So yeah, it's lots going on out there for sure. So yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, so
awesome.
Plans for the weekend?
So a couple places are opening up here in Austin. They're doing 25% capacity. So this morning we had the pleasure of sitting outside of our favorite coffee shop. They've set up these barriers in between, so you're like well away from everyone. And we got to sit outside in the sun and drink our coffee. There was no one else there, so it's like.
So does 25% capacity mean they're opening up the patio and not the inside, or?
Yep. Yeah.
Or do they just remove 75% of the tables?
Well, there it was. You sit outside, and there's also they've flipped tables over to give you space between. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool idea. But yeah, we were the only ones sitting there. But so that'll be nice just to see a little bit more life in the city, maybe over the weekend.
It's encouraging things are happening. Life begins again. We're all looking forward to it for sure. Yeah.
What about you guys? You got much planned?
No. We'll probably just do what we did last weekend and get in the car and drive sort of downtown along the seafront there, or the seawall, and just sort of let the kids sort of burn off some energy and run around a bit. And maybe we'll get a takeout coffee. I don't remember the last time we had one. I think,
it's like a treat, right?
My wife's got a counter every day, and it's just like day 45. It's like, okay, day 45, all right, but sounds so ominous, but
right.
It's so funny, like 46 days ago, we're all talking about, I'm sick of traveling, I'm just exhausted, I don't want to live out of a suitcase, and now we're not even barely 45 days into this, and it's like, when can we travel again?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a difference when you don't want to do something versus when you told you can't do something. It makes a big difference. Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. Well,
cool. So
it's Friday, so that means FAQ Friday.
Yeah.
Here we are again. All things relating to buying and selling e-commerce businesses. So if you have any questions while we're watching this, drop it in the comments. We will answer your questions live. We have a ton of questions to go through as well. Hundreds and hundreds of questions collated. So we have a ton of questions to go through. But we do want to reiterate that if you have any questions live, we will answer those as well.
Yeah, we've got people from all over the world or whatever who can't sort of join us live, so they sort of send their questions in on email or Facebook Messenger or whatever. So we'll start by going through there. But yes, as you said, certainly if anything pops into your mind, just put it in the comment section and we'll get to it. But ready to get started? Can I start grilling you with these questions? Awesome.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So the first one is a loaded question, but maybe we could sort of hone it in a little bit, because we have talked about this quite extensively sort of throughout most of these lives. But what does a broker actually do? I love this. It's such a general question. Yeah, nothing. Nothing.
We don't do anything. We just sit on make Facebook Lives all day.
Right. Yeah. So but this is the actual question that we've been presented with. So what, if you were to sort of summarize, I guess, because we have gotten through some detail, and we will go in through more detail in the future. But we did do a live on a DIY sale, excluding a broker, and the advantages of that, and also the advantages of using a broker. So if you could sort of put it in a nice little box for us, what does a broker actually do for their client, being the seller?
Yeah, absolutely. So most people think that, and we've done a video on this too, that all you need if you're thinking about selling a business is a buyer. And most people think on the surface that's all a broker would do, is just connect you with a buyer and then you guys just handle it, right? So I'll talk about what a general broker does. and then what we do. Maybe just a quick comparison would be helpful. So a standard business broker, very much like a real estate agent, they want as many listings as possible. So you say, hey, I want to sell my business. They'll say, great, let's put it up for sale. Let's advertise it, essentially get buyers to come in and say, we want to buy this business. And then they'll introduce you and they'll give you some help along the way, of course, give you a list price. That's pretty much it. They have a buyer list. They shoot it out to that buyer list, advertise it, filter some buyers, and then bring them through, help you get the deal done. What we do that's a little bit different is we help you prepare for the sale. So we talk about the 3 stages of selling. Number 1 being, are you mentally and emotionally ready to sell your business, which can't be underrated. Number 2 is, what will the market likely pay for the business? So we'll help you figure that out. And then the third thing is help you understand if your business is ready for sale. And that's even before we've gone to market. We typically work with clients 6 to 24 months before actually going to market and selling their business. So once we are actually selling the business, what the work we do then is to find the ideal buyer for the business. We go push the deal into the market to find that ideal buyer. We help you understand what offers come in. We typically, in the last 6 months, in the first 2 weeks, we have multiple offers, 6 to 10 offers on any deal we're marketing. So we help translate what those offers mean, really unpack the details of those offers, help you figure out which one could be best for your scenario, and then help you negotiate to make those terms even better. And then once we sign the LOI, we help you all the way through diligence. We spoke about diligence this week. Was it yesterday or the day before? We help you all through that process, handhold you, guide you through that whole process, take you through the contract, all of the terms, the business terms. We work with your M&A attorney, your lawyer as well, to make sure you're getting the best deal possible, and then assist with transition, handover, training, schedules, all of that sort of stuff, right until the last dollar is paid. So if there's any sort of deal structure and there's future payments, we even manage that for you. So we actually do quite a lot compared to a standard broker. But that's essentially what we do, and why we'd call ourselves sell-side advisors as opposed to brokers. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I just wanted to emphasize that, like we talked about the other day, is that diligence is dangerous ground. And that's where deals can die if you don't have proper advice. But not only that, I mean, we've flipped it around to say the proper preparation to set you up so that, that diligence runs as smoothly as possible. And yes, obviously, like we work as a sell-side advisor. The buyers are not our client. The seller is our client. Your best interests are all we care about. So that's just wanted to sort of emphasize that. But yeah, what does a broker actually do? Yeah, not much. It's funny. It's not like buying a car. It's not just finding a buyer, negotiating a price, and they cut a check, and both of you walk away. It is so complicated when you're selling an FBA or e-commerce business. There's inventory, there's trademark, there's all sorts of different layers to it that and there's serious risk. And if a buyer is going to assume that risk, they're going to start throwing in structure and deal terms based on where they've evaluated that. So you definitely need an advisor helping you sort of, like you say, translate those terms and what they mean.
Especially at the levels we're at, a 7-8 figure deal, 9-figure deal, like this isn't small consequences for either side. So it's pretty detailed. Anyway, I'll let you keep going, mate. I know you've got
No, for sure. Yeah, there's plenty, but we talked before, just to sort of wrap that up before we switch gears, is that this is a huge financial transaction, possibly even the biggest financial transaction of many sellers' lives. But they often forget that it's also a huge transaction and risk on the buyer side too. And they are human, and they do have to answer to people. So they have the same fears as you do about the future of the business. So that's so an advisor a broker will actually sort of work with both sides to sort of mitigate those and make sure that the best deal terms. But Okay, so next question here we got, and we get this one often, but it's
just before you go into the second one, while we are talking, if you do want any questions answered live, do drop them in the comments. We'll get to those as well. We do have a list of questions already, but do drop them in the comments if you want anything answered live. Yeah, just thought I'd add that. Go ahead, Jeff.
We'll add that periodically throughout that in case anybody's jumping in late, for sure. So when should I sell is a question that comes up frequently, and I think that I want to say that at least 3 out of every 5 sellers that I talk to ask that question in the first 10 minutes. Is this the right time? When should I sell my business? You know, so people certainly have their targets. It's like, okay, I want to get to 5 million, 10 million, 50 million, whatever it is. They sort of have kind of a monetary target sometimes, but there's two sort of, let's stick with time of year first, and secondly, let's talk about times in terms of history of the business. So if you could sort of cover both of those things in your answer when we say when should we sell the business.
Yeah, so I like to start with not selling. And what would your life look like if you didn't ever sell your business? So start from there. Because the reason I say that is, you know, there's a reason all these buyers want to buy these businesses. You've built cash flowing machines. The businesses that are selling are printing cash. It's really hard to rebuild. It's hard to build from scratch, and it's hard to rebuild if you go try to do it again. Most people think, I'll sell, I'll just replicate this super easy, it'll be exactly the same. Rarely is. There's a few people that can pull that off, but not many. So really understanding the cash flowing asset you've built and why it has so much value is something not to be taken lightly. A good friend of ours, Dan Andrews, wrote a book called Before the Exit. I highly recommend reading this book just for a mental exercise of other options before selling. So I want to start with that because I don't want you to think, oh, they're brokers, they're advisors, they just want to sell the business. Of course, we want to sell your business when it's ready to sell, for sure. However, I don't think that should be the first option. There's a lot of things you can do in your business to make it a better business, because a lot of people sell out of fear, and a lot of people sell because it's overwhelming. The business is overwhelming them. So if you can figure out how to overcome fear and how to not have the business be overwhelming, the nice side benefit is the business is worth more. So get real with yourself about why you're even thinking about selling first. Read Dan's book Before the Exit. I'm not paid to say that. He is a friend of mine, though. Definitely read that book. Now, there are people that read that book that still want to sell their business. Of course, you've built an asset that's worth something. Maybe you have other things. So the common reasons people sell is links to when to sell. And I will get to the seasonality, but the way this is going, maybe we'll do that last. So the when to sell. So say you've got an e-commerce business, an Amazon-based business, which is the bulk of our clients and the bulk of the people we talk to. And there's times in your business. So the startup phase, the startup time in your business is really where you're figuring things out. The second stage is growth. You've found that key product, the hero product, and you're building out, hopefully in that same niche, serving that same customer with more products to expand the business. And then you go into the growth, the optimization phase, optimizing profit and things, which is a really good time to sell the business. So that's the optimizing time. And realistically, in years, that startup phase can take people 6 months to 2 years. The growth phase can take 1 to 3 years. And the optimization phase is really where you've found that peak and you're looking to optimize cash flow, but you're still growing, right? That's the ideal time to sell. Any questions or anything to add on that before we go into seasonality?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's an interesting point that you sort of say, like, when a business gets so big that you kind of need to take on debt almost to operate it at the size that it's operating at. So that's an interesting prospect for some people. But I was speaking to somebody yesterday who shared a quote, but like I don't actually know who came up with the quote, but he basically said a good business should be ready for sale or built to sell from day one.
Yes.
Whether you actually do or not is different, but your business should be prepared for a sale all the time. And so, that just sort of goes back to your line. It's like, what would you do if you didn't sell the business? Like, is it okay to sort of keep growing, but preparing for a sale means you have a well-oiled machine. It's maximized for profit. It's maximized for value. And in that scenario, it's like, maybe you don't want to sell anymore. So don't wait until you want to think about a sale to do those things. Like listen to the videos that we've done before about boosting value and the metrics that investors want to see, because you can implement those into your business today, and possibly, the result is you'll have a more profitable business. So you don't actually have to sell the business to prepare a business for sale. Doesn't mean you need to go through and sell it. It just means it's in a better and a more valuable position. So just wanted to layer onto that. There's different ways of saying the same thing, I guess, but
for sure. And the short answer to when to sell a business is when you don't need to sell. You're not in a rush, you don't need to sell, there's no urgency. I could sell this or I could not sell it, but you need to decide to sell, of course. But you don't want to be forced to sell. That's the best time to sell.
Yeah. Just to sort of add to that, like if you've committed to sell, you kind of need to go through it. You can't just keep moving the target, because I mean, one of the metrics that we look at quite often is the time on market. And you will see the time on market being 100 days, 180 days, 200 days, and then you'll see in the business it's been on for 900 days. And it's like, well, what's going on there? Why is it? And this is pulling the averages up, and people get scared. It's like, oh, the average time on market is like almost a year. And it's like, well, there's a few businesses that really pull that average there. And perhaps they're just listing it and seeing what happens, and they'll just keep it on the market forever. And just like a house, it's like, oh, if I can get this, I'll sell, but I'll just keep it up there until somebody comes along. And there's no downside in doing that. But it's interesting that people sort of do that, and that means to me that they're not mentally prepared for a sale.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is step one.
Exactly. So let's talk briefly about time of year, because this also relates pretty heavily to e-commerce. We've touched on this before. Essentially, for the average e-commerce business, Q4 is their biggest time of year. We've seen a lot of clients that don't have that as their peak, but typically, if you're in e-commerce, there's going to be a peak time of year. So people, the next question of when to sell usually is around the time of year as well, like you mentioned. So if you have a peak season in your business, the best time to sell is right going into that peak. So you need to be cool with having the trailing be the real value of your business, not over that next peak. You really, to maximize the value today, is when you're going into that peak, right? Because the buyer wants to see some upside, and they need to see that upside is coming, not going away. If you're selling on the other side of the curve, if it's really big, like 80-90%, maybe even 70% of the business is done in Q4, let's say, you don't want to sell after Q4 if the buyer is going to take another 9 months to even start seeing the real return on that business. They'll probably structure the deal in a way where you're not getting all the cash at close. Whereas if you sell into a huge peak like that, which a deal we did last year was selling right in before that peak. And the cool thing that was happened was we found strategic buyers, number one. Number two, those buyers wanted in as fast as possible. So diligence was really fast. Closing was quick. Most of the cash was at close. Like it was a win-win all-round deal. And then they went through that period of cashing in straight away, the buyer. right?
Yeah,
So
they're
everyone wants
motivated
sell and get the deal done.
to catch a piece of that, right? I do get the attraction.
Yeah, exactly.
I had this conversation with somebody on Monday this week who basically said, "Yeah, I want to sell, but I want to wait until after the Christmas rush in January, because then, of course, they've reaped all the rewards of a huge season. They've sold through the bulk of their inventory, and they're not carrying, a huge amount of investment. They don't have to cut a check to order in such quantities anymore, and it's a slower time of year for them, so they can relax a little bit." And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but then any potential investor is going to have to wait almost another year for them to start capturing some of that upside. So they're going to
How much of that revenue though? If it's like I was mentioning, if it's huge, yes. If it's more smooth throughout the year and there's a peak in Q4, let's say, but the bulk of your sales are done through the year and then there's a boost in Q4, that's fine. It's only if there's a massive peak at one time of year, you don't want to sell on the other side of that, because we have a lot of clients that come in and actually the peak time for transactions worldwide is Q2. So Q1, we see most of the businesses come to market because of that exact reason. Most people are waiting for Q4. And then Q2 is when most of the deals close, right? Worldwide, because that's when the most deals are on the market.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Is that because it's heading into summer, do you think? Because that's also quite a peak, like we thinking like home and garden and outside and sport and fitness or whatever, spring would be a good time to buy all that stuff. So as a consumer, so you have it for summer as the weather's getting nicer, at least in our hemisphere anyway.
Potentially. I think most people, it's because there's more businesses on the market in Q1. And then it takes time to get through diligence and closing. And then summer is actually a lull for M&A in any M&A. And also Christmas is a lull. So over summer, most professional investors with lots of money go to Europe for summer or go to their summer houses, right? They're not doing deals. So yeah. And then Christmas is obviously it's a family holiday. So.
Got it. Cool. So whatever your peak season is, it might be summer, it might be spring, it might be whatever category you're in. So taking that a little bit further, if people are thinking about a certain time of year to sell, how long does it take to sell a business?
Yeah.
Because that might give people some, how much of a runway do they need if they want to say, okay, I want to sell in, beginning of October, so that a buyer can sort of capture some peak buying season, consumer buying season. But how far in advance do I need to start engaging with a broker or?
Yeah, so we typically work with clients anywhere from 6 to 24 months before selling, because a lot of the work we do is to optimize for maximum value. So we're exit planning, we're putting all the things in place to maximize value. So our process is typically a lot longer. When it comes to actually closing a deal, there's two stages. So there's the marketing stage, the promotion stage. We use a 3-week process, and most of our deals are under contract in that first 3 to 4 weeks max. And then in 7 and 8 figure deals, which is what we're working on predominantly, is from that time of signing that LOI to closing can be anywhere from 30 on the low end, 30 days on the low end, to 90 days typically. Sometimes there's some overflow due to funding issues or whatever. The longest we've seen is 6 months being the closing in the US, and we actually had a 302-day closing in Germany. So that was a transfer issue and something that we'd never seen before. But on average, I'd say anywhere from that, it's usually 45 to 90 days is really the time frame as far as once you get the deal signed to getting paid is about the range, 45 to 90, I'd say.
Got it. And I have I know we're coming up to the half-hour mark here, and there's I have another sort of 2-part question that sort of somebody gave me this week, and hopefully we can answer this for them. But do you need to sign a non-compete, and can I sell on Amazon after, like in a different category, I'm assuming. But anyway, so yeah, just if you want to just explain that, this has been a question fed to me to answer on the live here today. So yeah, go ahead. Do I need to sign a non-compete, and can I sell on Amazon after in a different category?
Good question. So yes, you will need to sign a non-compete, but these are negotiable. we have literally got non-competes down to not just the category, not just the products, but the materials that made the product before. So they can't compete in these type of materials selling on Amazon. So essentially, that seller could come back and sell in the same category, just not this subset of products, right? Mm-hmm. So oftentimes the buyer will come in and want the widest category. So if you're in home and kitchen, they'll say you can't sell in home and kitchen, right? Because that's defending their moat. But we've successfully 99 out of 100 times been able to narrow it down super specific to at least the specific product category subset of that overall, say, home and kitchen category. So you can definitely narrow that down. And can you sell on Amazon again? Well, that means yes. So even if you did say the whole of home and kitchen, I'm never going to touch again, there's a million other categories that you could sell in. So definitely, if your contract does say you can't sell on Amazon, that's super unrealistic. You should be able to go back into the marketplace and sell again. Obviously, the intent of this, the reason a non-compete is important, is the buyer doesn't want to buy what you've built. You have a lot of domain knowledge in this space. They don't want you to come back in and just wipe the floor with them, use all the suppliers you had before, all the inside knowledge you have. They want you to transfer that knowledge to them and be safe that you're not coming back after them after the sale.
Yeah, and typically a non-compete can be 3 years, sometimes 2 years. Is that ever negotiated?
Yeah, it's all negotiable. So yeah, 2 to 3 years is pretty common. We've seen up to 5 be requested before. I think.
But again, you've always said that buyers can ask for whatever they want, right? Yeah. I mean, anybody can ask for whatever they want, but bring it to the table and we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing's a negotiation. Every point is a negotiation. If you just say yes to everything, you're missing out. But do choose which battle to really lay down the hammer on, right? and be super aggressive on. But yeah, it's all a negotiation. Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess that all sort of leads back to the very first question that we talked about today: is what does a broker actually do? Well,
yes,
all that. Yeah,
all of this and more.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, that basically brings us to the end of the half hour here. So yeah, that was awesome. So, but again, if you can't join us for the live, certainly drop us an email, a Facebook comment, however you want to get in touch with us, if you want your questions sort of answered on these videos, because they all sort of stay in the Facebook community in the unit section for you to go back and review later. So we'll do our best to answer any questions that come in through the week. So certainly, if you can't join us, make sure you get your questions in, and if you are able to join us live, certainly pop the comments in. But we'll wrap it up there for now, I think. If you do want to get in touch with us, if you are thinking about selling or exit planning or selling 2 years from now or selling tomorrow or whatever, certainly send me an email. sales@thefbabroker.com is the easiest one, but it goes straight to my inbox. So we can get in touch and arrange a time to have a call and discuss what your goals are and figure out where we can help.
Absolutely. And one other resource I want to point you to, we actually had a client use this yesterday, which is kind of cool. FBAscorecard.com. We put together a resource for you. It's a short video and a PDF download that you can see and compare your business against other businesses that have sold and rank your business. So this is a great resource. You don't have to talk to anyone to do this. It's all there for you, and a video to walk you through how to think about it. And you can just see what your business looks like compared to businesses that have sold. So that's
cool. And that FBA scorecard certainly has a lot of things that maybe you hadn't thought about before. So
yes,
certainly give all of those sections a read through and see kind of where your business is. If you take a really honest sort of hard look at it and be honest with yourself, and sort of see where. But there's certainly a lot of thought-provoking things in there to really consider moving forward with the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. We've not seen anyone that's got a perfect score yet, so don't feel bad.
and you probably won't ever.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, Jeff. That's top of the half hour, bottom of the half hour. Whatever. That's half an hour. That's all we got.
It's the middle. It's not the bottom or the top, is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
We are midway through the hour. It's time to jump on.
I've opened a can of worms. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Okay. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye for now.